I was in my office when it happened, reviewing quarterly reports like any other Tuesday afternoon. One moment I was highlighting revenue projections, the next, an overwhelming wave of dizziness hit me. The fluorescent lights seemed too bright, the room started spinning, and then, darkness. I woke up in the hospital 3 days later, surrounded by beeping machines and worried faces. My name is Emma Thompson, and at 26, I'd never had any serious health issues, yet here I was, hooked up to monitors, with my parents hovering anxiously by my bedside. What happened? I croaked, my throat dry from disuse. My mother grabbed my hand, her fingers trembling. You fainted at work, sweetheart. The doctors are running tests to figure out why. But there was something in her eyes, a flicker of fear that seemed disproportionate to a simple fainting spell. My father stood by the window, unusually quiet, his shoulders tense. Where's Daniel? I asked, noticing my twin brother's absence. We'd always been incredibly close, even for twins. He usually would have been the first one here. The room went silent. My mother's grip on my hand tightened, and my father turned away from the window, his face pale. There's something we need to tell you, my mother began, her voice shaking. Daniel was in a car accident. He's in the ICU. My heart monitor started beeping faster. What? When? Tuesday afternoon, my father said quietly. Around 2:30, the same time I collapsed. Before I could process this, Dr. Marshall walked in, her white coat pristine, her expression carefully neutral. Good to see you awake, Emma. You've given us quite a puzzle. She checked my vitals while explaining that my collapse coincided exactly with Daniel's accident. Your brother suffered a severe head trauma, she said, reviewing her charts. And at the precise moment of impact, you lost consciousness, despite being miles away. That's impossible, I whispered. Just a strange coincidence, my mother interjected quickly. Too quickly. These things happen. Dr. Marshall gave her an odd look. Mrs. Thompson, given the unusual circumstances, we'd like to run some additional tests, including a DNA analysis. My father stepped forward abruptly. Is that really necessary? Emma just fainted, probably stress or low blood sugar. With all due respect, Mr. Thompson, simultaneous trauma responses in twins are rare but documented. We need to understand the genetic factors at play. I noticed my parents exchange a worried glance. Something wasn't right. How's Daniel? I asked, trying to sit up. Can I see him? He's stable, Dr. Marshall replied, but still unconscious. The next 24 hours are crucial. After the doctor left, my parents made excuses about getting coffee, leaving me alone with my thoughts. I couldn't shake the feeling that they were hiding something. The way they'd reacted to the mention of DNA testing, their insistence that this was just a coincidence. I grabbed my phone from the bedside table and texted my best friend Sophie, who worked as a nurse in the same hospital. Need a favor. Can you check Daniel's room number? Her response came quickly. ICU room 412, but visiting hours are over. I waited until nightfall, until the nurse's rounds became more sporadic. Then, ignoring the protest of my aching muscles, I disconnected my monitors and slipped out of bed. The hospital corridors were dim and quiet as I made my way to the ICU, leaning against the wall for support. Through the glass window of room 412, I saw my brother. Daniel lay motionless, his head bandaged, surrounded by machines. My chest tightened at the sight. We'd always joked about having a twin connection, but this was different. This was terrifying. You shouldn't be here, a voice said behind me. Dr. Marshall stood there, looking unsurprised to find me out of bed. He's my twin, I said. I needed to see him. She nodded, then hesitated. Emma, the preliminary results of your blood work came back. There are inconsistencies we need to discuss. What kind of inconsistencies? The kind that make me question everything your parents have told us about your relationship with Daniel. My heart started racing. What do you mean? Your genetic markers. She paused, choosing her words carefully. They don't match what we'd expect to see in twins. In fact, they don't match what we'd expect to see in siblings at all. The corridor seemed to spin again, but this time it wasn't from weakness. 26 years of memories flashed through my mind, matching birthday parties, identical outfits, the constant remarks about how alike we looked. That's not possible, I whispered. We're twins. We have the same birthday, the same face, the same parents. Dr. Marshall asked gently. Emma, I think it's time you had a serious conversation with your mother and father. I stared through the glass at Daniel, at the brother who might not be my brother at all. and felt my world begin to crumble. The next morning, my parents arrived early, carrying coffee and forced smiles. They found me sitting up in bed, Dr. Marshall's words echoing in my mind. The blood test results lay in my lap, pages of medical jargon that all led to one impossible conclusion. "Want to tell me the truth?" I asked, my voice surprisingly steady. "About Daniel and me?" My mother dropped her coffee. The dark liquid spread across the hospital floor, but she didn't seem to notice. My father's face went ash gray. "Emma, sweetie, what are you talking about?" My mother's attempt at confusion wasn't convincing. I held up the test results. "Dr. Marshall ran my blood work. Want to explain why your twins don't share any genetic markers?" The silence that followed was deafening. My father sank into the visitor's chair, suddenly looking decades older. My mother pressed her hands against her mouth, tears welling in her eyes. "We wanted to tell you," she finally whispered, "so many times, but what?" I demanded. "But you thought it was better to lie to us our entire lives, to make us believe we were twins when we're not even related. You don't understand," my father cut in. "It was complicated, then uncomplicated," I said, my hands shaking as I gripped the test results. "Tell me everything now." My mother perched on the edge of my bed, wringing her hands. "It was 26 years ago. We had just lost our baby." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. "What? Our daughter?" she continued, tears streaming down her face. "She was stillborn. We were devastated. Your father and I, we couldn't cope with the loss. What does this have to do with Daniel and me?" My father leaned forward, his voice low. "The nurse at the hospital, she knew about 2 babies who had been abandoned on the same day. Different hospitals, different circumstances, but both needed homes." The pieces started falling into place, each one more horrifying than the last. "You adopted us," I said slowly, "separately, and then pretended we were twins." They nodded, looking ashamed. "It seemed perfect," my mother whispered. "You were both born within hours of each other. You even looked similar. We thought we were doing the right thing, giving you both a family, a connection." "A lie," I corrected harshly. "You gave us a lie." "Emma, please," my father pleaded. "We loved you both so much. We just wanted you to have a special bond, to always have each other." "Did anyone else know? The doctors? Our school?" They shook their heads. "We moved to a new city before adopting you both, created new birth certificates. No one knew." I thought about all the times Daniel and I had marveled at our twin connection, how we could sometimes sense what the other was thinking, finish each other's sentences. Had it all been in our heads, a self-fulfilling prophecy based on what we'd been told to believe? "And now?" I asked. "How do you explain what happened with the accident? Why did I collapse when he was hurt?" My mother reached for my hand, but I pulled away. "We don't know," she admitted. "Maybe it was just—" "Don't you dare say coincidence," I snapped. "I'm done with your convenient explanations." A nurse appeared in the doorway. "Emma, Daniel's awake. He's asking for you." My parents jumped up, but I held up my hand. "No, I need to see him alone. You've done enough damage." Making my way to Daniel's room, I tried to prepare myself. How do you tell someone that your entire relationship is based on a lie? That the connection we thought was biological was actually an elaborate deception? He looked pale against the hospital sheets, but his eyes lit up when he saw me. "Emma, they told me you were here too. What happened?" I sat beside his bed, studying his face. How had I never questioned our supposed identical features? Yes, we both had dark hair and blue eyes, but looking closer, the differences were obvious. "Daniel," I started, my voice catching, "there's something I need to tell you about us." Before I could continue, he grabbed my hand. "I felt you," he said urgently. "During the accident, right before everything went black, I felt you there with me." "How is that possible?" I stared at our clasped hands, his fingers warm against mine. We weren't twins, we weren't even siblings, but something had connected us that day, something that defied medical explanation. "I don't know," I answered honestly, "but there's more we need to talk about our parents, about our birth." The heart monitor beside his bed started beeping faster as he read the expression on my face. "Emma, what's wrong? What aren't you telling me?" Taking a deep breath, I squeezed his hand tighter, preparing to shatter everything we thought we knew about ourselves. Blood or not, he deserved the truth. Daniel listened in stunned silence, as I explained everything. The blood tests, our parents' confession, the elaborate lie that had shaped our entire lives. His face went through a range of emotions: disbelief, anger, confusion, and finally, a deep sadness that mirrored my own. "So we're not," he started, then stopped, struggling to find the words. "We're not even related." "No," I said softly. "We were both adopted, from different families, different hospitals. They made up the twin story to give us a connection." He let out a bitter laugh. "A connection. They manipulated our entire lives, made us believe something that wasn't real. All those times we thought we could sense each other's feelings." "Maybe we could," I interrupted. "Daniel," I collapsed at the exact moment of your accident. "That wasn't fake, that wasn't something they orchestrated." He fell silent, considering this. The bruises on his face stood out starkly against his pale skin, a reminder of how close I'd come to losing him. "Brother or not, have you thought about finding them?" he asked suddenly. "Our real parents?" The question hit me hard. In all the chaos, I hadn't even considered that possibility. "I don't know, have you?" "I think we have to," he said, his voice stronger now. "We need to know the truth. All of it." Dr. Marshall chose that moment to enter the room, carrying more test results. She looked between us, sensing the heavy atmosphere. "I assume you've both been brought up to speed?" she asked gently. We nodded. "Then you might be interested in this." She held up the papers. "We ran more detailed genetic tests on both of you. While you're not biologically related, there's something unusual in your results." My heart started racing. "What do you mean?" "You both have a rare genetic marker, one that's been associated with heightened empathic sensitivity. It's extremely uncommon, occurring in less than 1% of the population. For both of you to have it." "What are the odds?" Daniel asked. "Astronomical," she replied, "which might explain your synchronized response to the accident. Some studies suggest people with this marker can form profound psychological connections, regardless of biological relation." I grabbed Daniel's hand again, feeling that familiar warmth, that sense of connection that had always been there. Maybe our parents' lie had given us a foundation, but we'd built something real on top of it. "We'd like to conduct some further studies," Dr. Marshall continued. "With your permission, of course. This could help us understand more about psychological and emotional bonds." "No," Daniel and I said simultaneously, then looked at each other and laughed. "No more tests," I explained. "No more studies. We've been under a microscope our whole lives without knowing it. Whatever this connection is, it's ours." She nodded understandingly, and left us alone. The silence that followed was comfortable, familiar. "What do we do about them?" Daniel finally asked. "Mom and Dad." The words felt different now, knowing what we knew. "But still, they're still our parents," I said slowly. "They raised us, loved us, made us who we are, even if they were wrong about how they did it. But can we trust them again?" Before I could answer, our parents appeared in the doorway, looking uncertain and afraid. For the first time, I saw them as they really were, flawed, human, desperate people, who'd made a massive mistake out of love and grief. "We understand if you never want to see us again," our mother said, tears in her eyes. "But please know that everything we did, however wrong it was, came from love." Daniel and I exchanged a look. 26 years of silent communication hadn't been a lie after all. "We need time," I said, speaking for both of us, "and space, and complete honesty from now on, including our adoption records." They nodded eagerly, relief flooding their faces, and Daniel added, "We want to know about her mice, your daughter, our sister who didn't make it. She's part of this story too." Our mother covered her mouth, stifling a sob. Our father wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "Whatever you want to know," he promised. "No more secrets." As they left, Daniel squeezed my hand. "You know what's weird? Finding out we're not twins actually makes our connection more special, because it's real, it's ours. We chose it." I smiled, feeling the truth of his words. Blood might make you related, but it takes something more to make you family. Daniel and I had that something: mice, a bond that couldn't be explained by DNA or medical tests. So I said, ready to find out where we really came from. He grinned, the same mischievous expression I'd grown up with. "As long as we do it together." "Always," I promised. That part wasn't a lie.